Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and hearing me talk a little bit. I'm going to try to keep it somewhat modest. I did want to acknowledge and thank several important people for attending, starting with my wife Melody, who doesn't come to meetings that often. Representative Vile, where did he go? There he is. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate that. Mayor John Cook from Tigard is here. Thank you for coming, John. And Metro Councilor Craig Dirksen, thank you very much for coming out. Did I miss any other elected folks here tonight? Okay. Our city electeds, Council President Starr is off doing some other things tonight since it's his birthday, and but we have with us Councilor Susie Stevens, who's been with us on council for 3-4 years now, Councilor Charlotte Lehan with a long and illustrious history in Wilsonville, Councilor Kristen Ackervall, our newest councilor, who we're very pleased to have on council here also. The range of different backgrounds and personal stories and perspectives that your council brings to the table is an important piece of how we discuss and find a way forward on policy. So it's very gratifying and helpful to have such a diverse range of people on council. I thank you all for your work. Every other year after there's an election, we do a council goal and objective kind of setting session. So we have these that are 2017 to 19 kind of time frame at this point. We'll set new ones in the spring after the election coming this spring, I guess. We pay attention to several primary themes. One of them is good community design, including connectivity within our city. Connectivity implies social connections and connections between neighborhoods, public spaces, institutions. It implies opportunities to access natural areas and the Willamette River that flows through our town, opportunities to walk, outdoor recreation, physical connection of roads and sidewalks and pathways and bikeways, and transit connections with across our city and connections into the greater metropolitan area. We pay attention to thoughtful land use planning, working for how our community serves people and jobs and industries and what amenities are really desired in our community. We look at how to plan for the inevitable growth that comes at us, how to protect farm and forest lands, how to exercise good stewardship over the environmental resources that are part of our community and that surround us. At the same time, we try to invest in and reinvigorate the community as each new project comes along, and we try to figure out how the pieces fit together. We acknowledge the amenities in our community that are so important to the people that live here: our library, our school system, recreational areas, commercial shopping areas, our parks and recreational department, which involves both the physical assets and the programming that we do in our parks department. For instance, right now we're working on our update of our Parks Master Plan, especially the first time that we will bring the new acreage that we acquired along the river at the bottom of Boone's Ferry Road into our park system. Riverfront property is such a premium, we don't get very many opportunities to do that, and so we're excited about that. We ultimately have concluded that design matters in our community. What you build and how you build it and where you build it and how it relates to what's already here are significant components of what the tone and the assets in our community are. So we want to think about that as we go forward. Also, we want to think about the economic development side of things. What are the good jobs and housing options and needs of people in our community? People at all stages of their lives have differing needs and differing interests, and it's important that we pay attention to offering those kinds of options. We want to be an inclusive and welcoming community. We have people from many more backgrounds than some of us might realize, and if we don't get out and talk to our citizens a lot. People from different walks of life, people who came from different countries. A lot of our high-tech people have come from other countries and work in our community and have become part of it. Council adopted not too long ago an inclusivity resolution trying to state and make people aware of the values about inclusivity that we want to be responsive to. In general, we feel like our city government is working well. We have a high level of community engagement. We have a lot of city volunteers from the private sector, people that live here in different walks of life and work here, and we want to thank them all for that input because it adds a huge contribution to how the city functions. Our city staff exercise a very high professional level of quality, and that has aided the city in innumerable ways. At the same time, we're all focused on a service orientation toward our citizens and our businesses. So while we're trying to manage, planning for growth, managing growth, engaging the community, trying to provide top quality services, there's a lot of balls that we juggle. So how well are we doing on all those things? Wilsonville is a city that's in demand at this point in time. Houses are selling quickly. Prices continue to climb. There's a lack of housing, both owned and rental housing, at affordable rates. How do we incentivize more housing to be built to help fill the gaps in what is now available? A strong community needs to work for all of our citizens, whether they're young people or single parents or families or empty nesters or our prized, as some of us are getting to that point, senior citizens. We also need to be a community where everyone can be included. Our teachers, our retail workers, students, emergency responders, people who work in our coffee shops, hair salons, pizza shops, and yes, even in local government, need to have a place to fit into our community. Business growth is robust in Wilsonville. Wilsonville hosts 21,000 full-time jobs with an aggregate payroll of $1.1 billion. $1.1 billion is written out in payroll in the city of Wilsonville every year. Growth continues to challenge our commitment to maintain an attractive, amenity-rich community. We're planning for future employment in the Coffee Creek and Basalt Creek areas. Those absorb a lot of time and focus from staff currently, as well as from your electeds. We need to aggressively study, discuss, and debate growth patterns and trends and ideas. Growth is going to happen to us, whether we find a consensus and guide those patterns, or whether we have to react to unexpected development proposals and industry that may not quite fit with our vision and our hopes for our community. We've experienced some external constraints that have thrown us curveballs when we have collaboratively planned and Wilsonville approved proposals for employment that have subsequently not received all of their state or regional allocations in order to enable them to go forward. While all of this is going on, traffic from external growth and the regional transportation system has become a major impact on our community. Interstate 5 loads are at congestion levels through Wilsonville virtually every day. City streets cannot and will never absorb I-5 overflow loads, cannot do it. We need to work with regional planning and make efforts to prioritize and fund major transportation improvements throughout the region. All the while, we need to be working on our local grid of networked surface streets and connections to give people multiple connections for moving throughout the community and throughout the region. And we need to figure out how to sequence those in a logical way and how to find the funding to enable us to continue with construction of that grid network. We need to support transit, both our SMART system and the regional TriMet system. As congestion continues, alternative ways of moving around the region will become more and more critical, both for the people that live here and for the people that work here. So what have we been doing to address all these kinds of problems? I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the different components. First of all, residential growth. The Villebois project is nearing completion. That's about 500 acres, and we expect within about 2 years the construction will be essentially near the end on that project. There's a wide range of housing types and prices in Villebois, and they're sort of overlapping 3 different neighborhoods that are connected by a loop system of parks and trails and recreational spaces. It's quite a specially well thought out place. It is built on the idea of connectivity. We have constructed roads and bridges across Beckman to connect Villebois, across Barber Street the same way. Ultimately, Villebois will consist of over 2,500 different dwelling units, quite a major component of our community. And there'll be a small neighborhood-type commercial center around the piazza in the center where the kind of circles around the 3 neighborhoods would overlap. In the middle, that will be the commercial center. As we're realizing we're near the end of housing additions in Villebois, we're looking forward at what comes next, and the answer is the Frog Pond area on the east side of town, the other side of the freeway from Villebois. This area had a plan adopted in November of 2015. The school district has announced a future primary school site within that community, which will expectedly become a major social component and a hub within that community, much as Lowry Primary School has in the Villebois community. Frog Pond West will be a neighborhood of more traditional suburban homes, which will help to balance the city portfolio of housing. Frog Pond West is expected for about 570 units on lots that vary in size from 4,000 feet up to 12,000 feet, fairly large in our community. None of this area has infrastructure now, which means there have to be new pipes put in the ground, new roads, stormwater systems, curbs, gutters, all of those pieces. It's going to mean that the homes in Frog Pond West will not be inexpensive homes. They are going to have to bear a significant amount of the cost. At the same time, we're committed to making this new neighborhood walkable, connected, to having a street grid system. There'll be limited entries onto the bordering thoroughfares of Beckman Road and Stafford Road. It's designed to be a connected neighborhood with ideas about how people will move through the neighborhood, not just vehicles. There'll be a future regional park and trail system along the Beckman Creek corridor that lies on the west side of this future neighborhood, and we're looking forward to how that adds a trail connection that will link up with the rest of the city. Beyond Frog Pond West is the other piece of Frog Pond East and Frog Pond South. We're applying to Metro in 2018, this year, for inclusion of the East and South neighborhoods into the urban growth boundary. The new Meridian Creek Middle School already exists in the South neighborhood. That was built and opened, I'm losing track, last fall I think it opened, and it's already becoming quite the place. We do expect that middle school will also become a social hub of the future East and South Frog Pond neighborhoods, and that adds a significant connection point and gathering social point for people that will live in that area. What about community life as encouraged and enjoyed through shopping and entertainment and recreation? There's things going on there too. Over the last some years, we've had successful development of the Argyle Square shopping area in North Wilsonville, as well as the Old Town Square, the Fred Meyer Center on the west side of I-5 here in the southern part of Wilsonville. These have brought many new shopping and dining and entertainment experiences to our community. One of the more notables is the McMinimum's old church and pub, which is a social gathering area, a small music venue, and a lot of different meetings and events happening there. Right now, our community is working on a vision for our town center area, which is the commercial area that's on the east side of I-5. This is to be a community-driven visioning process to kind of reimagine what kind of a town center would we really want to have in future years. Originally, the town center area was designed as a traditional suburban, auto-oriented kind of a shopping center. That dates back to planning work done in the 70s and early 80s. The area is about 100 acres, surrounded by the town center loop. Within that loop is our branch campus of Clackamas Community College. as well as Fry's Electronics. Regal Cinemas has facilities there, and we have some additional businesses along the outside of the loop between there and the freeway that are included in the planning also. We have people that are looking at strategies to try to imagine how to make a more attractive, commercially vibrant, mixed-use district that would have amenities for many people. We would want it to be easily accessible by people from all sides and also be a pedestrian-friendly area where you could walk around and enjoy shopping and restaurants and social experiences and things like that without just jumping in your car to leave. We envision that it might integrate urban environment and natural environments and create attractive, accessible places that invited both visitors and residents to shop, to eat, to even live there, work, learn, play, lots of components to make a vibrant commercial center. Community workshops and events are being held throughout this planning process. It's been going on for, I've lost track, maybe a year, and it's got a ways to go until we reach the end. We're all benefiting from the work of a highly engaged and enthusiastic task force of citizens and other stakeholders that will bring recommendations ultimately back to council. What about employment? Wilsonville's focus primarily is on providing the infrastructure that cultivates and invites high-wage jobs to come to our community, jobs that can support a family. Today, Wilsonville, though only 24,000 people still, we're just a small city, has 21,000 full-time jobs. Rather extraordinary when we look across the region, not what you expect in an edge community on the region. Half of Wilsonville's jobs are in high-wage sectors like manufacturing and engineering and computer programming. The aggregate payroll, as I mentioned previously, is over $1.1 billion and growing. If we grow jobs at the expected rates in future areas, that number will continue to increase. Some of those new opportunities for increases include the Coffee Creek employment area. Coffee Creek was brought into the urban growth boundary in 2002. Concept planning was completed in 2007. An infrastructure plan was adopted in 2012. This is a approximately 200-acre area on the northwest corner of Wilsonville and has been designated as a regionally significant industrial area. It is envisioned as a high-quality attractor of good jobs, high employment, both present and future. Coffee Creek is projected to potentially host about another 1,800 jobs and maybe a payroll of another $55 million. We established an urban renewal area in this in Coffee Creek in 2016 after we put it out for a public advisory vote and received a favorable community response in November of 2015. Urban renewal will allow us to have the future businesses that come help pay for some of the needed pipes and streets and roads and other public amenities. Doing so will also then help prepare Coffee Creek to be attractive to private investment. And we are focusing on trying to attract companies that offer high quality employment and significant payrolls. All of those components help us pay for the amenities that our community has come to count on and enjoy, and we intend to have that continue. One of the things that we have done to try to make Coffee Creek more attractive is we have had staff working on a very intensive project to develop a new type of development code called a form-based code. We looked across the country and have found no instances of form-based codes being used in industrial employment areas. There are a variety of them being used in mixed-use commercial areas, but we believe that the form-based code for Coffee Creek is perhaps one of the first for industrial employment areas in North America. Developers that use the pre-approved building forms and design principles will be on track to have a faster application approval process that will enable them to move forward with more certainty on a quicker timetable. If developers choose to do something other than those particularly patterned pieces, then they can also use the traditional application process to do something different and go through the standard approval process. We're excited about seeing if this can work in an efficient way. We're very early in that cycle at this point in time. What about transportation? Well, transportation is about mobility and connectivity. And this has been a major issue for Council through the last couple of years. Wilsonville operates the SMART transit system to provide a commuting option for local people. SMART has been in operation for 29 years now and gives rides to over 300,000 people as of last year. We made, when the West Side Express service opened, the rail service on the west side of Wilsonville, we made a commitment that we would meet every train that came to Wilsonville, and we would take people that were on the trains to their place of employment within the city and do it within 10 minutes of every train that arrives. We have maintained that commitment ever since that first started, and we intend to continue to do so. SMART operates one of the most environmentally friendly fleets within the state. We made a commitment some years ago to compress natural gas buses and have a variety of those, and for some years we've been working on, and finally this year received a federal grant award that will help us fund 2 all-electric buses, which we think will be maybe the first ones operating in the state, and we will continue on that road and see how that works. Electric buses are not something you pick off the shelf and they ship to you. When you order them, they build it. So it takes a while to get it coming, and that's in the works. Working on surface street congestion is a major focus that the council has had and the staff has been working on. We have obtained ODOT cooperation on a southbound I-5 congestion study looking at what happens on I-5 between Wilsonville Road going south to past Charbonneau to the Canby-Hubbard and 551 highway cutoff. That analysis will determine whether an added additional auxiliary lane that helped prevent people from having to merge in and merge off in that short distance might help the flow of traffic southbound. And we look forward to the results of that. It's a big kind of a project to take on, but we think it might be possible, and we think the preliminary analysis shows it might have significant benefit. Council is also working on strategic spot improvements on the areas near I-5. Specifically, we're working on some alterations to the traffic patterns for southbound Boones Ferry Road, where it turns left onto Wilsonville Road. We're adding a 3rd stacking lane on the on-ramp onto southbound I-5. That's under construction now, you may have noticed. We're working on some alterations to Boones Ferry at the Fred Meyer driveway to try to improve traffic flows there. We've instituted a no turn on red rule during the rush hour for cars approaching the Wilsonville Road Boones Ferry intersection, and are working to secure better compliance with that rule that's still fairly new. At the same time, we're advocating for a larger study of the I-5 South Corridor, and we believe that that's what's really needed for benefit of not only Wilsonville, but for the region and other communities up and down South I-5. The idea would be that we would study from probably the 217 interchange with I-5 all the way down across Boone Bridge and try to look at what is possible. We also need to look at how West Side Express service, our rail service, can be better utilized for commuters, whether more runs, more hours, more, what could be done that could make that happen, as well as for how freight needs in our economy can be better served. And we're looking at where there might be incremental changes like merge and auxiliary lanes along that entire corridor that might be a sufficient improvement, significant improvement, I should say. We're also working on an alternative modes bridge idea for what we're calling the French Prairie Bike Pedestrian and Emergency Bridge as part of a strategy that is right now in a study phase where we're looking at feasibility and preliminary engineering. It would be an emergency bridge when needed, especially if the freeway locked down and there's no easy nearby alternative route to get across the river. It could be opened up for emergency responders or secondary responders. It could be used during the day for bicycle and pedestrian access, especially for our communities south of the river like Charbonneau, so they could come with different ways, whether bicycle, and some have even suggested golf carts, though that hasn't been figured out yet, to shop at Fred Meyer Old Town Square area, ways to not have to get on and off the freeway in an already congested area. At the same time, it could be an alternative transportation option for people that live south of the river, and conceivably could be quite a tourist attraction. It would tie the Portland metro area access for people that are on the Tonkin Ice Age Trail coming southbound. It would connect with that, go across the river, and connect those people to the Willamette Valley Scenic Bicycle Route. That could become quite a tourism operation for people that wanted to see the gorgeous Oregon scenery and find a way to do it on 2 wheels instead of on 4. Finally, I guess on this topic, we continue to build our grid. Over the last couple of years, we've built a new bridge on Barber Street to connect it to Villebois across the Coffee Creek wetland, a new bridge on Beckman to connect it across to Villebois. We've built an extension of Canyon Creek South on the east side of town, and then ultimately connected that to Vallejos, which now comes out all the way to a new light by the post office and is added a north-south link. We have completed a new section on Kinsman Road running from the corner of Barber Street near Coca-Cola north to the new roundabout at Beckman. So each of those projects is a major construction project, but we keep chipping away at building those additional connections within our community. On the drawing boards and coming up in the next couple of years are the new connection that has been called the Old Town Escape that will go from, 5th Street on Boone's Ferry to Brown Road connection, as well as the first construction in the Coffee Creek area, expected to be the Garden Acres Road improvements that will open some of that up for industrial development, and a significant bridge proposal for one of the dangerous dips on Beckman Road that is adjacent to the Frog Pond area. In fact, it'll be very close to the planned primary school, so having a safety factor there is important, and we're working on ways to finance that and to move that forward to not hold up development in the Frog Pond residential area. That's a lot of different pieces. So we have these huge challenges. We have a lot of pieces coming at us, but we're working on a continual organized process to build each of those components to make things better. Metro projections are that the region will grow by 500,000 people in the next 30, 40 years, by 2040, 2050. Another 500,000 people on top of the congestion we already have. The council goals are to continue to set quality, long-term direction for our community. We want to be a connected, complete community. We want to exercise environmental stewardship throughout our community and build that into our growth as we go. We want to stay committed to thoughtful land use planning, deciding proactively how to maintain a quality community where people want to live. A strong community with high quality environment, rich amenities, interconnected neighborhoods, commercial centers, and employment areas. We want to encourage responsible economic development for the stability that those jobs bring to our people and our community. Good jobs, diverse industry sectors, employing a variety of skills and skill levels among our people. We want to have goods and services that we need every day be available locally here in our community without people having to go down the road to find those. And we want to have a wide range of choices for places for people to live, to work, recreate at all stages of their lives, whether young or old or in between. And we want to have a healthy, active living community with attractive public spaces and recreational opportunities that invite people to be here. The challenges that face us are not necessarily unique, but they're ours also. How do we encourage diverse housing types and pricing levels, prices and homes that meet the needs of all in Wilsonville? How do we continue to build employment and create an environment that attracts quality family wage jobs both now and several decades into the future, when we don't have but a very cloudy crystal ball on what employment and industry will look like in 20 or 30 years? How do we develop the transportation systems and connections to enable multiple options for how we move through our community and throughout our region? The ongoing goal, the overarching challenge, I think, is how do we create a safe, desirable, aesthetically pleasing community which nurtures and sustains all who are here? We need all of Wilsonville citizens to join in this. If our combined efforts are sufficient, they will yield the future that we envision. Won't you all join in? Thank you very much. So we could take a little break, and you don't need to feel committed to stay to the rest of the business meeting. If you have other things to do, thank you so much for coming, and we'll be happy to chat for a few minutes.